Good morning, everybody. Welcome to EXSIN Live. Today, we're going to talk about the band breakup. We're going to talk about, you got a team, and we all see it. These great bands come out there. They do great for so long, and then something happens. And something happens with a relationship because they couldn't keep the team together, and they just fall apart. I mean, think of all the bands we watched in the day where, one guy, David Lee Roth, destroyed Van Halen, right? So Sammy Hagar had to come in. You see it time and what we're seeing with a lot of clients right now is that some of the relationships are impacting their ability to grow their company, and things get in the way and it causes challenges. So the question is, how do you keep that from happening? What are things that you can do to keep that cohesive team together and move forward? I mean, there's a lot of rumors about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers right now splitting up because there's a salary cap issue. The head coach from the New Orleans Saints stepped down yesterday. I mean, we're seeing it all over the world, people move into different things. So today we're going to talk about some things you may be able to do at least, and then know what's happening and how to get to success in your company to keep moving forward. So Phil, you look like you're thinking. Are you thinking of the bands that you loved as a kid that broke up?
No, I mean, I didn't care about Van Halen. I cared, I didn't like it when the Eagles broke up.
Yeah, that's tough.
But no, I've just, what you're talking about is critical. It's about relationships, right?
Yep.
It's culture, usually. I mean, that's usually you'll have a person that believes that they're bigger than an organization or bigger than the culture. I think it was interesting. You talk about Tom Brady, who most would say is the greatest ever to play the position of quarterback, obviously. And they said it's not having nothing to do with football. It has to do with his family. And so a lot of times it's just situational, right? Things can change too. Yeah. I mean, there are times when, if he's getting, I think the statement I read yesterday said, my wife deserves me to be the husband she deserves, and my kids deserve to have the dad they deserve. So that tells me he's got a lot of pressure to be at home more.
Well, just now that this isn't new for Tom. It's not new, but in let's transition to business. If you're trying to build relationships and your business is either growing or it's dying, that's the reality of life. Either you're getting better or you're not. And somebody said to me the other day, I was just kind of chuckling because they're right. What are things that people can do to ensure they keep those strategic relationships open, and how do you think we can help them? What advice would you give them to help them be stronger in what they do?
Well, I think, the key word you said there is relationships. And I think, two things have to happen. Number one, you got to have confidence in your organization that what you're doing is of value and that it really provides solutions and solves problems for people. I think if you have a belief in that, then it's easy to maintain those relationships because you always feel like what you're doing is relevant and there's value in what you're doing. It's, the other thing is capacity. I think a lot of times businesses, gaining capacity is scary, because usually gaining capacity within an organization means you have to make an investment in human capital. And so it's an investment. So then that comes back to, so there's all these variables that go in, but I think the number one thing is maintain positive relationships and understand your culture, but also you got to really believe that what you're doing has a positive effect on other people.
And that's a fact. The other word I'd use here besides is transparency. I think if you're in a relationship where you have people in your business, open and honest feedback, being transparent in everything you do and why you're doing what you're doing and what's going on is super helpful for your teammates. The more they know and understand the next steps and where you're headed, the better you're going to be. And I'm going to hit this because it's kind of what I do, but the planning piece, right? That's the reason you sit through a planning session at the beginning of the year. It provides transparency to your team about what you're thinking and where you're headed. Transparency, what does the future look like for you? Is it good? Is it bad? Just be open and honest. Those two things right there, working on a relationship and then being transparent strengthens that relationship, right? Because there's a lot of factors happening around the world. I mean, there's things that are going on every day that change what you do and how you react to situations. We have clients that are always trying to figure out what's next and worried about relationships when they go awry, whether it's a supplier or a customer or whatever else. And it's always about nurturing that. And what we've seen work best is that when they walk up and go, hey, I see there's a problem, or there's a challenge here. What can we do to fix it? How do we make it better? As opposed to going, I'm never talking to you again. It's over, right? I mean, we've seen that too. So
yeah.
It's one of
Well,
those things that's important.
well, I think, being transparent is always important. I think, listen, everything in business has to be mixed in with a heavy dose of reality. I mean, there are things that occur in business and in life, but it doesn't matter how many self-help books you read. It's a real thing, right? I mean, I was talking to a young person late yesterday afternoon that's in their, I say young, everybody's young to me now, it seems like, but in their mid-30s, and have a pretty successful little business. And the truth is it doesn't fit his lifestyle anymore. It doesn't fit what he's wanting for him and his family. And so he's being forced to make some really tough decisions. Most people around him would say, well, why would you do that? I mean, you're very successful financially. And he's like, well, yeah, but I'm miserable. So I guess that's what when I talk about being transparent, or when you talk about it, it's about being, first thing is are you enjoying what you're doing?
That's important. Yeah.
I mean, it's to me, it's the most important thing. If you're not, because then it goes back to what I said before. If you don't believe in what you're doing is bringing value to somebody, it's very hard to maintain the grind. You can fake that for a little while. You can't fake that forever. I mean, eventually you're going to get tired, and you're going to go, well, this sucks. I don't like this. I'm not having fun doing this. And I don't think that's talked enough about. I think too many times people talk about the latest greatest thing that they've read somewhere, they've seen on a podcast. More likely they've seen it on a podcast in today's world, and they think that that's what they have to do. I don't think enough people are transparent with themselves and look at themselves and go, what's important to me? What do I want to do? Because if you don't answer that correctly, all the other crap doesn't matter. I mean, you're not going to be as effective for other people if you're not fulfilling what you need for yourself. Man, it's just not going to happen.
Well, I got to make an honest admission right now, Phil. I just want everybody to know that follows EXSIN that I absolutely love what I do, and it's been fun watching everybody that we work with grow. And I'm going to celebrate somebody right now. A young lady, Bailey Wilson, she was on the news last night. Great news story.
We saw it. Tanya and I saw that on the news last night.
Yeah, she good kid, man. She's amazing. She's got 17 trucks now in her first store, and she's making her first corporate hire next week, we think. So congrats to Bondi Bulls and all that you're doing. That is one of those things. It was a conversation that her and I had a couple years ago, and she met with a bunch of other people. I'm not taking any credit for her success, but she met with a bunch of other people, and she's really just knocked out of the park. And that is what you should find the satisfaction in life of, those moments when you see people, doing better. I can speak to just about every client that we've worked with, and that's been the joy of my life, is watching them grow and how they've changed, and hear them at some point in the relationship saying the same things we've been telling them for 2 years, like it's their own stuff, is just the coolest thing.
Right. Well, one thing too for the story last night, and it was a great story. I mean, it was incredible. But the fact that she has 17 food trucks in 7 states and started franchising after 5 months, and now has a storefront. But it all started from when her dad was going through a health challenge, and she wanted him to have healthy food.
It's a fact.
And so it's something she's passionate about.
She's no doubt
about it.
There is no doubt that she is.
I tell people all the time, I don't think I never once when I was a child said I want to grow up and be a business guy. That wasn't anything I aspired to be. But somewhere along the line, it's something that I figured out was important to me.
Yeah.
So
I think part of it is you, depending on where you are in life, you got to figure out what your purpose is, right?
Right.
I mean, you go your whole life, you do all these things, and so you look back, and at some point, when you hit over 50, you start thinking about, what am I leaving behind, right? Because you start looking at that door down the road. Man, I'm past halftime right now, getting in the third, fourth quarter of my life potentially. What does that look like, and how do I give back? So when people think of me when I'm no longer here, they go, you know what? He actually cared about people, or he actually did nice things for people. He was a good person. And I think all of that's part of the team stuff.
Yeah, there's no doubt. I think, and you and I talk a lot about this stuff. It's life. You get one shot at this thing down here, right? You do. And so you got to, I think the thing that I like most that we've talked about this morning is the transparency piece, and I think being transparent and being self-aware is extremely important for everybody. We've had clients that I think are doing exactly what they should be doing. We've also had clients, Dave, that are not doing what they should be doing. I mean, because they're just miserable, but they're trapped, or you know what I mean, or they think they're trapped, and that's just not, that's no way to live. I mean, you've got to enjoy what you're doing. You've got to have fun doing what you're doing, and it's got to be a priority. You've got to make it something that's important enough to go get it done. And that's, I think we get caught up in the. Let me think about this. If you're doing something, let's say you're making $30,000 a month, $25,000 a month, whatever, $50,000 a month. You're making good money, right? You're making a lot of money, but you realize you hate it, right? How tore are you right now? How torn up are you? I hate to break this to everybody. There's not a lot of $25,000 a month jobs out there in the world. Those aren't on every street corner.
They're very few.
So the reality is that you've probably spent to your lifestyle. So that means you now probably live in a house that you have to make that kind of money to afford. You probably became accustomed to taking trips. You probably became accustomed to driving certain kind of vehicles. You probably became accustomed to all this stuff. So that's how people get trapped in doing things that honestly they don't like. I mean,
working for the man.
Yeah, that's how you get trapped. And that's the thing. You can work for the man, and you're the man. You can be the owner of it and be trapped. I believe, and we've talked a lot about this to clients. It doesn't really, if you're an entrepreneur, it doesn't really matter what you're doing because you're really passionate about business. Typically, if you're an entrepreneur, about building, about growing, about launching, about doing all this stuff. And it really doesn't matter if it's a worm farm, a manufacturing plant, a food truck. It doesn't really matter. Pick the business, because people that are wired that way, it's about the process of building something that gets them excited. That's why you see so many entrepreneurs that'll do something for 3 to 5, 7 years, and then they step away from it and go launch something new because they don't like running crap. They like building stuff.
Yeah.
Sure. And that's why there's a big difference between an entrepreneur and a business owner. There's a huge difference. But so many people out there are stuck in a ownership role when they're really entrepreneurs. And then so taking a hard look at yourself and understanding what's important to you is very, very important.
So let's talk about a couple of things that people can do we've talked about transparency. We've talked about networking. Some other things you can do is if you're the owner or the entrepreneur building a business, you can just set process controls in place. We talk about this a lot, but that's part of building a place that people want to work and come and visit. The second thing is building a culture as part of those processes where people are empowered to make decisions and go execute. I don't know how many times in my life that I was not empowered to make decisions. I had to wait for somebody else to decide, and how frustrating it was because you're waiting on that one person who couldn't get off the can to go do something, and you knew exactly what needed to be done, but you couldn't do it until you got approval. I mean, that went all the way up to the White House, and we were fighting wars. There were certain targets we had to go through the chaos to the White House to get a yes or no. Could we take the target out? And you're sitting there waiting and waiting and waiting. It seems like forever. And you're watching the target on the ground going, okay, we're here. They're a bad person. Why can't we do anything? I am certain that many of you in your business feel that way today. I'm certain it is very frustrating because I know how frustrated I was. But I encourage you as a business owner to think about that in your position and empower your people to make decisions. Some business owners make a limit. You can make any decision on anything that's less than $500 or $1,000, whatever. After that, I want to be in the loop. You can you can put controls in place to protect your company while at the same time giving your people the ability, empowering them to make decisions. And I think the last reason people are miserable in their job because they're there for safety and security reasons. They're there because they need a paycheck to feed their family. And if all of your employees are just sitting there for a paycheck, you're in trouble. Because let me tell you something, they're going to go to the next thing as fast as they can if it offers them more money. They need to be there because they love what they do. They love how they're treated. They love their company, and they're empowered to do great things. Again, Maslow's hierarchy needs, safety and security is first. You're going to do whatever it takes, rob, kill, whatever, to feed your family and yourself and have a shelter over your head. That's just the reality of it. So if you want to build a team that's not doing this and is coming together, then you need to think about transparency, relationships, safety and security, self-actualization. How do you get them to that point where they want to be there and want to be part of what you're building?
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. No doubt about it. And it is that simple, right? I mean, it does start with those basic survival needs, and then it goes from there. But you having the processes, obviously we talk about processes all the time, extremely important. Having the ability to have that, I don't want to say crutch, but that playbook, right? So that when things aren't going right, or if you're struggling that day, or if you're just having a hard time, or whatever the case may be, it's that thing that allows you, that's familiar, that gets you through those hard times. That's what you need to do. But it's there's a countless if you are passionate about what you're doing, there's nothing you can't overcome. If you're not, there's not too much that you can't overcome. It really does, to me, come down to that. You can have we see this, Dave. We see this with clients. Yeah. They have all the checks they have all the playbook, they have all the stuff, they have everything, and they just have average results. And why is that? Because they're not passionate.
That's a fact.
So passion's important.
So Phil, I added a little download over in the comments. So if they want a copy of our 6 steps to build a cohesive team, click it, download it. It'll help you kind of think through what we talked about today. It's a great read. It's 6 pages. It's a little checklist to go down and make sure you're doing some things to help you out. Yep. I'm excited about what the future holds for everyone out there, especially us, Phil. I'm excited about what's next for us as we move and grow EXSIN. We'll be we're working on our Bold Peer advisory groups as always. So if you need help, join us and jump in. And we're walking through what it looks like to do a monthly or quarterly free mastermind for folks. Just come and get a taste of what it's like. So thanks for being here today. Thanks for taking your time to listen to us pontificate about our thoughts as old men about business. And best of luck. Got anything else to close with, Phil?
No, man. I appreciate I appreciate today's message. I think it's important that we always you got to do a checkup sometimes, right? And that's everybody. I think you can call it an evaluation, goal set, whatever. But you got to do those things, and I think you got to be honest with yourself. And I think that's the big message today: is just be honest where you're at. Be honest about what you're wanting. If you'll do those things, good things tend to happen.
That is a fact. So with that, Dave and Phil from EXSIN Live, we are out of here.